Have you ever felt trapped in the vicious cycle of your own frustration? One man did, and he sought wisdom from Buddha himself. In a small village nestled between the emerald green fields and the majestic mountains, lived a man who was a living embodiment of frustration. His name was Alok, a humble villager who was always embroiled in the throes of dissatisfaction. Alok was no stranger to hardship. His life was a relentless struggle against the currents of misfortune. However, it was not the hardships that were unusual but his unending frustration that made him stand out. Alok had convinced himself that he was the most unfortunate person in the world. His days were consumed by a constant symphony of complaints and grievances. Every sunrise brought with it a new set of problems, and every sunset bore witness to his growing discontent. The villagers often whispered about Alok's plight, and his constant state of frustration became a local legend. But Alok was not interested in the whispers or the legends. He was searching for a solution, a path to free himself from the shackles of his perpetual frustration. One day, a wandering monk visited the village and spoke about Buddha, a man of great wisdom who had found the path to ultimate peace. The monk's words echoed in Alok's mind, and a spark of hope was kindled. He thought, perhaps Buddha could guide me out of my frustration. Maybe he has the wisdom to show me the path towards peace. With that hope in his heart, Alok decided to embark on a journey to seek Buddha's wisdom. He packed his belongings and with a heart full of anticipation, set off towards the unknown, hoping to find the solution to his incessant frustration. And so, our frustrated man sets off on a journey to seek wisdom from Buddha, unaware of the enlightening experience that awaits him. Crossing valleys and mountains, the man finally reaches Buddha, carrying with him a burden of endless questions. On his face, the lines of hardship etched deep, his eyes holding a storm of unanswered queries. He has journeyed far and wide, driven by the relentless pursuit of a solution, an escape from the chains of his frustrations. "O enlightened one," he begins, his voice a blend of desperation and hope. "Why does misfortune follow me like a shadow? Why does frustration seem to be the only constant companion in my life?" His words echo against the serene backdrop of Buddha's dwelling, filled with the raw honesty of a man at the end of his tether. He continues, pouring out his heart, the words flowing like a torrential river after a storm. He talks of the sleepless nights, the dreams turned to dust, the moments of sheer desperation when even breathing feels like a burden. He questions the fairness of it all, the relentless cycle of frustration that seems to be his life's perpetual theme. Buddha, the embodiment of serenity, listens. He does not interrupt, nor does he offer immediate words of solace. He simply listens, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the man's turbulent emotions. There is wisdom in his silence, a quiet acknowledgement of the man's pain, a compassionate acceptance of his struggle. The man, spent and empty, finally falls silent. His frustrations, his questions, his fears, all laid bare. He looks at Buddha, his eyes searching for answers, for some hint of understanding, for a way out of his never-ending cycle of frustration. With a calm smile on his face, Buddha asks the man to do something unusual before he can answer his questions. Curiosity piqued, the man waits, ready to undertake any task if it means finding the elusive peace he so desperately seeks. The encounter with wisdom has just begun. Imagine being asked to find a happy person. Seems easy, right? But what if you're asked to find a person who has never experienced any suffering or hardship? This was the unexpected task that Buddha presented to the man. A task that, on the surface, seemed simple enough. Yet, as the man soon discovered, it was far from easy. The man, although initially confused by this strange request, agreed to Buddha's challenge. He thought to himself, surely there must be at least one household where no one has suffered. Filled with a newfound sense of purpose, the man set off on his mission, hopeful that this task held the key to his freedom from frustration. As the man ventured from village to village, knocking on door after door, he was met with stories of pain and hardship. From the wealthiest of homes to the humblest of huts, no one was a stranger to suffering. The man heard tales of illness and loss, of heartbreak and grief, of struggles and disappointments. Every household had its own unique story, yet they all shared a common thread: the presence of suffering. At first, the man was disheartened by these revelations. He had hoped that his task would be simple, that he would quickly find a household untouched by pain. But, as the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, he began to realize the depth of Buddha's task. It was not a quest for a pain-free household, but rather a journey towards understanding the universal nature of suffering. The man's quest took him far and wide, through bustling cities and quiet countryside, over towering mountains and across vast deserts. But despite his tireless efforts, he could not find a single household untouched by suffering. Days turn into weeks, and weeks into months, but the man cannot find a single household untouched by suffering. As he journeyed on, the truth of Buddha's words began to take root in his heart, transforming his understanding of his own frustrations and of life itself. Returning to Buddha with a heavy heart and empty hands, the man finally understands the profound wisdom hidden in his task. He has journeyed far and wide, grappling with the world's sufferings, only to return empty-handed. But in his seeming failure, a great realization begins to dawn. Buddha, in his infinite wisdom, begins to unravel the enigma the man had been wrestling with. He explains, "Life, my dear friend, is a tapestry of experiences, woven together with threads of joy and sorrow, success and failure, love and loss. The existence of suffering is as undeniable as the air we breathe. It is not these experiences that cause your frustration but your reaction to them. Your constant struggle against the inevitable has been the root of your discontent." The man, struck by Buddha's words, begins to see the truth. His frustration was not the product of his circumstances but his perspective. He had been waging a war against the inevitable, a battle he was destined to lose. The world was not conspiring against him. It was simply following the natural order of things. Buddha continues, "In every hardship, there is an opportunity for growth. In every failure, a lesson to be learned. It is through these trials that we evolve, that we become stronger, wiser. Instead of resisting, embrace these experiences, learn from them, grow with them, let them shape you, not shatter you." With his eyes open to Buddha's wisdom, the man's frustration starts to dissolve. He realizes that his suffering was not a punishment, but a pathway to wisdom. He understands that suffering is universal, but misery is a choice. The man, once the epitome of frustration, finds peace within himself, understanding that suffering is universal, but misery is a choice. From this day forth, he chooses peace over frustration, acceptance over resistance, wisdom over ignorance, and in this choice he finds the tranquility that had long eluded him.